Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association. As we celebrate 75 years of DVC's impact on education, careers, and community, we're honored to share the incredible journeys of alumni who've transformed their time on our vibrant campus into meaningful careers, community contributions, and personal success. Each Tuesday, we spotlight DVC alumni, from first-generation graduates to entrepreneurs, educators, and leaders who share the triumphs, challenges, and pivotal moments that shaped their lives. And on Thursdays, it's Resource Thursday. We dive into the programs, departments, and services that make DVC the supportive, dynamic community it is, exploring how they serve students and how you can connect with them. Whether you're a current student, recent graduate, or longtime alum, join us as we honor DVC's legacy and discover how our past continues to inspire the future. Thank you for being part of this journey. Be sure to tune in, subscribe, and celebrate with us. DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. And now, join our host, Alumni Manager, Charlie Daly.
Good as I can be.
Okay. And we are live. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Takeshi Kawata. I was a former DVC student from 2020 to 2022, and then a UC Davis student from 2022 to 2023.
So you had the good fortune to go here to DVC during COVID, which is
Yes.
a interesting time. Well, let's get to that in a moment. So let's talk first about, where did you grow up?
I'm from San Ramon, most boring place it can possibly be in the East Bay. But yeah, born and raised, been there most of my life, yeah.
Okay. And where'd you go to high school at?
California High School.
Okay.
Also, a bit of a reputation for itself, but yeah, definitely one of the high schools of all time.
Okay. And did you have activities and stuff that you were into there, or just you did school?
Did school. When I was in high school, actually, that's where a lot of my love for esports, which is what I'm here to talk about today, started. So when I was in high school, I played semi-professionally on an amateur level team. We played a nationals level online tournament, and when I was like 15.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit.
I know.
So you played online sports. So
an online video game.
Okay,
yes.
So talk about that. I mean, this is high school, and you're playing on a semi-professional team for online sports. So talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So I guess the lead-in for it is my freshman year. I was homeschooled. My father had just retired, and we just wanted to spend some more time with him, and he wanted to be around the family. He was busy. He was working for a long time, and we took the year and we traveled some places, and we were homeschooled just to give us that flexibility and the ability to spend as much time with each other as we could. So that was really sick. Well, during that time, I played a ton of video games, as any kid would when you have that much spare time. And one of the games I was rather invested in, we'll say, was called Heroes of the Storm. Heroes of the Storm is like a 5-on-5 like battler type thing. So, you have your 5 people on your team. They have their 5 people. You have a base. They have a base. You fight each other, and then you try and break their base. And whoever's base breaks first loses.
So it's kind of like a video online version of Capture the Flag type of thing.
Sure. Except like in Capture the Flag, I don't think you usually like throw punches at each other unless we're playing in some bush league or something.
No. Well, I mean, when I was a kid, we played Red Rover, and it got pretty violent. But anyways, it was the 60s. So anyway, so you got really invested in this particular game.
Yes.
And so when you were traveling and stuff, did you found time to go play the games, or you squeezed in time?
So that was the when I first got really invested in it was. Well, when I was a little kid, I played some other stuff too. So me telling my story a little bit out of whack there, but or a little bit out of the timeline. But For Heroes of the Storm, that game in particular, I started playing it my freshman year. I didn't think too much of it, even though I was like pretty invested. But then by my sophomore year, I was in probably about the top 500 of America, and so it was something that I just decided, hey, I want to be more competitive in this. I think this is something I actually want to pursue, and joined up with an amateur team. I got recruited from like a talent pool. Like we got scouted. Like,
oh my goodness,
being scouted for like the G League or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So you're here in high school, you're doing just kind of regular high school stuff.
Yes.
And at the same time, you're getting scouted to be on a virtual Heroes of the
Storm.
Heroes of the Storm. Okay, cool.
It's a dead game now. You don't have to remember that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why you don't see me with a fancier jersey. You see me with a university one instead of like a big team.
Okay. So, but still, I mean, you're getting scouted for this particular game, and it's like people are asking you to kind of be part of their team and all that stuff. So, what was that process like?
It was sick. I mean, you take a look at me, you know, Playground, like, this guy was never the first pick. Like, this guy was definitely last pick material. So, being, like, actively wanted for something was, like, really, really big for me. But also, like, it gave me a huge escape from school because I might have been okay academically, but, like, I've never really enjoyed school that much, especially since, like, in sophomore year, you're stressed out about stuff, right? Like, AP Euro, accelerated algebra was the class I struggled the most with, honors physics. That was a brutal year for me. So academically, at least. So having an outlet and being able to do something I really, really loved was able to counter some of that out.
Well, and do something you really, really loved and you were really good at.
Yeah, I was all right back then.
Well, okay, wait a minute. All right, I'm not going to argue with you because I'm thinking, okay, top in the 500 in the country.
Yeah.
That's not small unless there's only 501 people playing, which I suspect it was a pretty popular game.
It was maybe a few hundred thousand, like mid 100,000s. Yeah, it was popular enough at the time, but it wasn't something that like had staying power, you know, because you need to have like for those games to stick around and for anything to stick around, right? None of the sports would stick around if they didn't have a consistent player base, a consistent audience, an opportunity to make money off the stuff. And that game really did not check any of those boxes, but it was my first entry into like organized competitive video games, I guess.
Okay, so we're gonna circle back around to that because it's because this is sounding like a very interesting thread, by the way. So. So you went from California high school.
Yes, sir.
And you end up here at DVC.
Absolutely.
And that was and how was your time here at DVC?
Well, I didn't spend very much time here on campus, actually. I had maybe one semester because of COVID, right? But the online classes I took, great. I still have all of my work for that saved. So if people wanted to make fun of me for my academics, they could. And yeah, I mean, just tried to work as hard as I possibly could and just thought about transferring the whole time, to be honest, but was just hoping that COVID would be over.
Yeah, we all were. It's like we said before we started, I worked at a company and like we were sent home for 2 weeks in March of 2020. Oh yeah, we'll have it figured out. And you know, we never really quite did. But so what was that experience like as far as trying to do college online and being told basically 2 more weeks, maybe a month?
Well, by that point, by the time I had started, because I'm graduating high school class of 2020, so I was totally in lockdown already. So the shock for me was, you had already gone through college apps. And by the time March rolls around, you've heard from a couple of schools. You maybe haven't heard from your whole pool. I was planning on staying in state the whole time because, the family wanted me to stick around. I wanted to stick around, so, we were just going to work something out there. Just applied to UC's actually the first time around because I was, kind of an arrogant kid. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get accepted somewhere. And the only place that let me in was UC Irvine. I was going to go there, and then COVID happened, and my parents are like, you are not going across the state. You are staying right here. So DVC became a very easy decision for me. Okay.
Well, and UC Irvine doesn't suck. I mean, it's just
I would have been very excited to be there.
It's a great school, and it lives on a beautiful beach. So, so what were you planning to major on when you were applying? Did you have a path picked out, or?
So I did the dumbest thing possible, and I went in undeclared because I had no idea what I was doing. I also had no idea what I was doing the first year I was here at DVC. I was kind of just doing GE stuff, but I caution everyone I talk to at this point. I'm like, yes, it is honest, but you don't necessarily need to be honest with this thing. If you want to go to the school, apply to the thing that sounds interesting. Apply to something you think you would actually enjoy, something that wouldn't be a drag. But when you apply undeclared, you compete against all the open slots in every single thing. You're competing against the most competitive stuff because people are going to want to, if they get in undeclared, they have to find a home in a major or in a college within the college somewhere else, right? So you're competing against the best of whoever's left over for impacted majors A, B, C, etc. Yeah.
So okay, that totally makes sense. So it's better to go in declared.
Yes, you should
and
pick
then
something.
you can always change your major later on.
Yeah,
so if you
I think so.
Well, most people do. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Unless you're going to be a doctor or an engineer, it's like chances are pretty good you're going to change. So you went in, you started here undeclared. Did you end up, then you transferred to UC Davis, correct?
Yes. So.
And did you go there undeclared, or you had kind of like figured out what you wanted to be when you got there?
No, I while I was here at DVC, there was a class I took in year one, semester one, with Professor Michael Leviton, our journalism instructor. I just took his mass comm class. I think it's journalism 110, I believe is the designation for it. And I enjoyed the class enough, and I guess he saw something in how I wrote to say like, hey, if you want to join this thing, I think you'd be a really good fit. I think we can get you writing for the paper pretty immediately. So I kind of kept that in the back of my mind, just kept doing GEs for the rest of the year, and then I kind of remembered what he said when stuff rolled around in year two, and I was like, oh, shoot, like, maybe I should give this thing a shot. Because if he said I could actually be something there, then maybe I should go be something there.
Okay. And then when you got to UC Davis, did you continue on with the communications or the journalism, or what have you continued on with at UC Davis?
Yeah, so I finished my associates here for communication studies for transfer. Did tag to Davis, so that obviously got approved. Applied to Berkeley, that got shot down pretty fast. Applied to LA, which is a cliffhanger, and I can get back to that one. That one frustrated me for a while. And then Irvine, I credit UC Irvine. It's the only place that wanted me both times. So I'm very thankful to them, even though I didn't end up going there. But yeah, Davis was the move. It's where my mom went, and it's near where my dad's from. So
okay,
it's good.
But you said UCLA was a cliffhanger. So talk about that.
UCLA had me on waitlist until, I kid you not, the first day of my UC Davis orientation. So when you're on wait, are you familiar with the UC waitlist practice?
A bit, yes.
Okay, so once you hop on that waitlist, they're just going to keep you there for an inordinate amount of time, to be honest. And this one just kept dragging on and on and on, and it was the whole summer. And halfway through it, or 3/4 of the way through it, I'm like, I must be so close. Like, if they're taking this long to think about me, I think my chances are really, really good. But there comes the deadline where you have to select one of those and you submit your intent to register. And UCLA had still kept me on waitlist. And you can stay on waitlist while you've submitted your intent to register. You just have to withdraw it later. So I was like, well, shoot, if it's between Davis and Irvine, I mean, it would make my parents happier if I went to, or it would make my ma happier if I went to Davis. And Irvine was really, really sick, but it would not have been for comms. It would have been for psych, and I wasn't sure at that time if that was something that I could actually handle. I didn't have a ton of faith in myself academically, so I decided to, hey, if it makes my family happy, and it would probably be a little easier on me as well, I'll declare for Davis, and I'll just wait until the UCLA thing comes in. And it dragged on all 3.5 months possible. And by the time I had driven myself out there for orientation, they gave me the notice while I was in the hotel room, and they're like, hey, we don't want you. Yeah. And I was like, dude, you just kept me waiting for 4 months to tell me that? That's crazy.
Well, at least you ended up, and UC Davis, I'll be honest, it's like I'm familiar with the campus and stuff, and I love the town. It's just, it's cool. And it's spread out. And whereas UCLA is kind of like this, park in the middle of LA, basically. So it's just in a lot of ways I like Davis better, but that's just me.
I just wanted a taste of SoCal after having, been born and raised East Bay, almost my whole life. So
Yeah, I get that. And plus the weather's a little bit better down there. But so you ended up at UC Davis and you're currently going there.
Oh, I'm done. I've been done for a while.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. So so you finished. What did you graduate with at UC Davis?
Bachelor's in communication.
Okay.
And a minor in psychology with a focus on the developmental aspects of it, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are you currently doing as far as work goes?
So I have a pair of part-time jobs. I'm still looking for full-time employment. If anyone in the esports sector is seeing this, please help a brother out. It would be so sick. I would love it so much. Not to say that I don't like what I work at right now. For this entire school year, I've been with the Alameda Boys and Girls Club. It's a nonprofit, and you can guess Alameda. I'm one of their program coordinators, and I run one of the first of its kind esports studios at these Boys and Girls Clubs, which is basically like you're familiar, right? It's like a YMCA type thing. So it's just an after-school place for teens. I work with middle and high schoolers, and I give them the opportunity to use some really, really nice computer equipment to actually do some great things, like give them the opportunity to play games they can't at home, to work with each other, to play against each other, that kind of thing. Just it's really, really cool.
Okay, that sounds like fun. And then the other part-time gig.
The other thing is I started it rather recently, I guess. Been there a couple of months now. I'm an English tutor. It's at a tutoring center in San Ramon. And I'm pretty excited about that as well, because that leads into some of the stuff I'm thinking about in the future.
Okay. So now let's circle back. So we there was the game that you were getting recruited for, and you ended up turning semi-pro on that. And then how did that particular evolve out? I mean, how did the gaming thing evolve out?
So after we won that thing, I think I was too young at the time to really understand like what that meant, because I was like 15 and I'm playing against people who are 20, 30. I'm like, I joked with my friends, like I have physics and math in the morning, and then I have homework in the afternoon, and then I had practice, and then I had like more homework, went to bed, and then like once or twice a week there would be match day as well. So like we would practice 2 or 3 times a week, and then we'd have 1 or 2 like official matches that like counted towards record. We didn't have practice every day because other people had jobs and I had school. But after we won that, the team had informed me that they thought they had an upgrade in mind. So they swapped me out for someone who was a little older, a little more experienced. And I never got picked up again after that one, because they were thinking like, they just won with this guy. If this team is dropping him, what's wrong with him? Like, right. Is he damaged goods or something? It's the same way as like I was a free agent, and if you're a free agent and you don't get picked up in traditional sports, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, so so at that point, were you done playing video games, or what was the thing?
Unfortunately for my parents, far from it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that game actually ended up like after I was dropped, I transitioned to being more of a coach or a manager role for a couple of other teams. So, being 15 and trying to coach people who are older than you is like about as hilarious as it gets. And I don't think any of them know to this day that they were being coached by a 15, 16-year-old. But that's what I did for the rest of that season per se, or the rest of that year, I guess, for academically speaking. And then unfortunately, I went from that one because that game died off at the end of that year, pretty much. They stopped development for it. They stopped funding, like the game studio, Blizzard Entertainment, stopped funding for that game because it wasn't making them enough money. And so they ceased development on it. And they were like, hey, people who were good at this game, go find another one that's similar to it. And that took form for me in the form of League of Legends, which I'm sure you've heard of if you've heard of any competitive video game stuff.
Well, World of Warcraft.
Yes. So. I've played a little while, but MMO is not my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you went on and did the video game, online video gaming, was it as fruitful this time around, or did you join a league, or did you continue on with the professional route? Because I do know that there's professional in a variety of different roles, as people playing professional video games online and stuff like that.
Yeah, so this one, League was a lot more fruitful for me than Heroes was. I never won anything quite as big as I did in Heroes, but that's because League is like, Heroes is really only big in two places. It was big here, and it was big in Korea.
Okay.
League is a international thing. America plays it, like all of North America plays it, South America plays it, Europe plays it, Asia plays it, and Asia is the best at it. It's not even close. So it's and a little bit of Australia too. So, we're 5 out of 6 major continents there. That's a pretty big game. So I never won anything quite so big as I did in Heroes, but it was through that I met like a lot of my friends in high school, because I was like, kind of well, antisocial is a strong word, but I would say an introverted kid, a very quiet kid by nature, someone who didn't speak until he was spoken to. And through that, I was able to break out my shell a little bit, start talking to people a little bit more, have something in common with everyone around me, because I felt a little different too, because I was homeschooled for a year. So it felt like I was, when you're separated from the people that you knew growing up for like a year, and you really only see them once or twice during that year, you feel like you've lost something. And so, playing games and something like that was a way for me to hop back into things.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I know that being cut off from people, from humanity, is a big deal. I mean,
Sucks.
as a species, we're very, very tribal. And so we do have to have that personal interaction. And so that was a very brutal time period for a lot of people. And it showed, it showed. And I know coming back from that, it's like people's social skills had atrophied, and that showed too. So, excuse me. So you went on. So now you're running these two programs. You're working with being an English tutor, and
Yes.
then you're also doing online gaming for these kids at the Boys and Girls Club, which,
Yes, sir.
I mean, is actually a real, it's a great a chance for these kids to experience something that they probably never would have a chance to. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the hope. The hope is that maybe out of those kids, they find someone who was like me as a little kid, but they just didn't have the chance to actually go out and compete for anything.
Yeah. Well, and it might even, I know my son was, he played some games that I don't even know if they exist anymore, but he ended up building his own computer to be able to do it. And so it's just like, he's now an electrician over in one of the refineries around here. But I could see where it could possibly spark that in some kid that, it's like they didn't even know, and then they get that kind of the juices going. So you're also doing the English tutoring, and then you mentioned briefly that you have some plans moving down the kind of what you're looking at down the future. What are some of the things what does the world look like for you in 5 years? What do you think?
Oh, in 5 years is impossible for
Maybe
me to
2
say,
years.
Okay, 2 years, maybe a little bit more manageable. It just depends on there are a couple of routes I think I can take. It's going to sound very very cliche of me to say this, but there are really it's not really a choose your own adventure so much as there are two paths I feel like I can take right now. So I haven't even covered everything I've done in the esports area, and we can get back to that as
we're
much
going
in
to.
depth.
We're going to, yes.
So that's one route. If I could find anything in esports, and once again, this is a plea for help. I need the help as desperately as possible. Like it's crazy how much that meant to me. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I was there. So when I was in high school, I didn't get it because I was a little kid. When I was here at DVC, it was COVID, so I couldn't really have gotten it. And then when I was at Davis, I was there for such a short time. I was there for 1 year, and I went through school so fast that I didn't take as much time as I could have to have appreciated it and known what, being around the game and being around the people who I played the game with. I didn't have as much opportunity as I could have taken to really recognize what it meant. So anything in the esports field, I don't care if I'm like the proverbial water boy. I do not care if I'm just doing tech check for these guys every single day and I don't get to know any of the players. I would be happy just being around the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get a little bit more into the esports thing.
Sure.
You wanted to kind of go on a bit of a deep dive, and let's do that. So you have a shirt on that says esports.
Esports at UC Davis.
Yeah. So talk about that. I mean, this is like like an intramural type of thing going. So yeah, talk about the esports club, I guess is what it is.
So esports, are you familiar with the term? Because I've used it before. Okay, so it's electronic sports, but it's been broadened basically at this point to include all manner of competitive video games. So this is what I can genuinely say this is where League of Legends got me. Me being a kid in high school, playing the game through all of my really difficult junior and senior year classes, playing way too much of it on weekdays, playing it throughout all of COVID during some of my lectures here in DVC, and now I can say that because I've graduated. I can say that very honestly. During those Zoom meetings, I was answering questions, so it's not like I wasn't paying attention, but I was definitely distracted, we'll say, by other things. But this is where it got me. So esports at Davis, and I have some actual talking points because we're a club sport.
Yeah.
They are a club sport. Sorry, because I've graduated, so I still hang out with them. I'm on great terms with pretty much everyone I worked with there. It was definitely one of the most meaningful things I've ever been a part of, and one of the most meaningful groups I've ever been a part of. I actually just got done speaking with a whole bunch of them yesterday, and I hadn't seen those guys in 3 or 4 months. It's been a while since I graduated winter 2023, but it's a program that has maybe six or seven rosters over 5 different games. And it is a club sport, so the university gives very little funding. It's really, we're doing this for the love of the game, and we're doing it under the Davis banner to be able to compete against other teams from other schools.
Oh, so this really is an intramural club sport.
Yes,
okay.
And this is something that I can genuinely say, if you checked my I hesitate to say this, but if you checked my bank account, it would not be a very big number that I got from the competitions, but there would be a number that we won from competitions, and that right there was all the proof that I needed that hey, I can keep doing this thing.
Okay. So what are some of the other I mean, I think it's fascinating that it has become an intramural sport, soccer and basketball and things of that nature. So what are some of the other points about the esports environment?
So just at Davis, or just in general?
In general.
In general, there are a number of really, really big titles, obviously, and they command we're kind of in a recession there, but we're in a recession everywhere, right? But with esports, there was a point in time where people thought it was really going to take off. Before COVID, everyone thought that this was going to be the thing because it was in full upswing. All the teams are spending organizations are spending big money. We're getting big name. People are getting really, really interested. Live events are happening everywhere. Americas, Europe, Asia. They're selling out full-on sports stadiums to have people watch people play video games.
Okay.
It was on the Jumbotron. It was unbelievable because you can't see what they're doing to everyone else. You see them with a mouse and a keyboard. So if you were just directly watching, if you're at the camera's point of view and the two of us are on opposite teams, all you would see is 2 screens in front of us, keyboard, monitor, headset on, and you're just playing the game. So for a lot of people, it was unthinkable. Why on earth would you pay money to see something like this live? But it turned into a sporting experience, basically, unlike a lot of things that traditional sports are able to offer. And also, it's a lot more accessible for people who do not have physical gifts. Esports was that level playing field because people are going to have faster reaction times than others. I have a very slow reaction time. It's a miracle I was ever competitive. I'm 23. I have the reaction time of maybe a 30-year-old on a good day, and maybe my dad on a bad day. So the fact that someone like me who has no physical gifts was able to actually be competitive and be a top performer at one point was just really all the case for me and for a lot of other people like me to get invested in something like esports.
So it is very equitable.
Yes, it is about as level a playing field as I think you can get.
Yeah, and the only stop is really the technologies. You got to have access to the technology. Yeah. So, Well, cool. So anything else you want to touch on about the esports? Because I mean, it sounds like a very equalizing environment as far as because especially if there's no physical gifts that you need other than to be able to sit in a chair. And I don't mean to minimize that, but it's like you do have to. I remember watching my son, who was a pretty good basketball player in middle school, and he was a pretty good baseball player, but he was never great,
Mm-hmm.
But he could play video games, and he was quite gifted at it. So
I love basketball. I mean, if I were a foot taller, you would not have caught me talking about esports and stuff. I would have played. I don't care how bad my asthma got. If I were a foot taller, I would have played that thing. It would have been sick.
Yeah.
As far as esports goes, I could talk about this for hours. Yeah. So I'm going to restrain myself a little bit. It is the thing that got me through a lot of times where I was like, not necessarily emotionally like unstable, but definitely like not 100%.
Tough times.
Yeah. Well, I can't really call them tough times because I'll look at the camera right now and say I've really never had to struggle a day in my life. I've been very, very blessed. I recognize that. But with that being said, yeah, I mean, there were days where I was pretty down and out, and video games were like the main thing that got me through it.
Yeah.
So as far as esports stuff goes, I'll keep going down path one because this is path one. I've worn a lot of different hats. I've been a player. I've been a coach. I was at Davis. I was a coach for the 2 years. So actually, this is an interesting thing I can talk about. The first full year I was there, of course I was a coach because I showed up to tryouts and they're like, okay, it's obvious that you think about the game, but if we're being real, you're probably not good enough to play. And I was like, all right, well, that's fair because I kind of sucked and I can't lie. But they were like, hey, would you be interested in coaching maybe? Because we need someone to work these teams together. And I was like, I've never thought of like doing that with this game because I didn't think I was experienced enough, but went through the interview with the manager and, the manager's Ian, shout out Ian. He was super, super gracious to me and he recognized that, maybe I wasn't a perfect interview subject at the time, but I cared deeply about the game and I wanted to work with people and I wanted to find other people who are just as competitive, if not more so than me. And, we thought we were a perfect fit. Like, as far as like coaches and managers go, things were great. So I got assigned to the JV team. Yes, we had enough players to have a varsity and a JV team. It was impressive. And that's who I worked with for the first year I was there. And since I said a year, I was there for 4 quarters. I count that as a year. My parents count that as a year because it means I wasn't there the other 3 quarters. No summer either. Fall, winter, spring, fall again. Done. But because I was there for 1 more quarter, they counted that as enrollment, so I was allowed to stick around as a coach because Esports at Davis is a student-run organization. We don't have anyone there who's not from Davis, or at the very least, like, wasn't a former Davis student while this thing was going on. That's why I'm still affiliated with them, even though I'm about 1.5 years removed now. But with that being said, yeah, I worked with the JV team for 2 years, and it was... and I might be exaggerating a little bit when I say this, but it is no I might be exaggerating when I say how good we were, because, you always remember your team as being the best. You always remember your players as being the best, the funniest, the nicest people you've ever met. That's not an exaggeration. And it's also not an exaggeration to say that we were part of the most successful run in League of Legends at Esports at Davis history. As JV, we outperformed varsity for the first year I was there, and we outplaced them the second time we were there. We placed top 10 in the nation among JV programs. Actually, international, technically. We placed top 10 in North America because we were beating out Canadian teams, too. And that was cool to me because I have family up there. But tangent on a tangent aside, like League of Legends is regrettably that game for me. And now after the player stuff, the coaching stuff, the management stuff, because the coaching and management went hand in hand, and my second year I was more comfortable, so obviously they gave me some more responsibility. And then after that, I've transitioned more to broadcasting. So now I hop in front of a mic in front of a screen that shows other people's screens, and I yell about it on air.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
And that's where I'm at now. So
Okay.
I have a whole spiel I can give at the end when we're wrapping things up, but we should cut it off there because I do not want to take up all of our time talking about
Okay.
just that. I can keep going.
Okay.
Trust
Well,
me.
we'll go a couple more points and then we'll wrap it up. So you talked about next you want to be doing something in esports, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's like your next journey. So what would be, imagine for a moment, what would be like the ideal place for you to work? What's the name of that company?
Well, for a while I always thought it would be Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
But Blizzard Entertainment has had some, unfortunately, every one of these big companies has had some sort of scandal at some point, because whether it's workplace harassment or regrettably misogyny, stuff like that, there's discriminatory practicing. It's awful. Like, to hear that stuff about the companies, the people that you looked up to your whole teenager life, I mean, it sucks. You don't want to hear that your people are doing bad stuff, but that stuff aside, I think I'd be best suited to Riot Games. Riot Games is LA-based, Santa Monica-based. I went down there to cast an event for them a while ago, which was sick. It was a gathering of all the UCs called the University of California Esports Initiative. It has teams from all of the different UC campuses, and they play the games that I was good at. They play League of Legends. They play Valorant. I was okay at Valorant. The second one is where I have more of a broadcasting sense. So if I had something with Riot, that would probably be through one of their professional leagues, which they have professional video game leagues. That is a thing that exists.
Okay.
It's crazy. There's no way I could be a player. They wouldn't even take a look at me at this point. I'm 23. I'm too old. But that being said, as a coach, would love to do that, but I don't know if I'm that good. As a manager, I would love to do something like that. As a broadcaster, absolutely, that would be like kind of my dream job there.
Okay.
And that's the end of path one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you have a path two that
I do.
Okay. What's your path two look like?
Path two is 100% the opposite direction. So obviously esports has been my life. It's been the main passion point for me for however long. And like, did you play card games when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Did you play like Magic?
No, that's Magic is after I was done playing cards.
Okay. So, well, I don't know your familiarity with Magic and stuff, but like it was Pokemon and then Yu-Gi-Oh! And then Magic for me. So like card games have always been like something huge for me. So competition, that's been my whole life. On the flip side of it, while I was coaching and stuff, my players are like, you're like weirdly patient. They talk to me as if I'm like weirdly patient. I'm like, I'm just a normal guy, and I think that you guys are too. Like, this is just how we're going to run things. And they're like, have you ever thought of like actually teaching? No. Are you kidding me? Like I thought I was if you ask me, I was a dumb kid. I can't lie. And school came moderately to me. I can't say it came easy. I can't say it came difficult. But that and some of the background I had at Davis for my psych minor, I did 3 classes. So like probably 12 units of early childhood education, early childhood psychology, developmental psychology, that sort of stuff gave me a bit more insight into not only how to work with my players, but also how to work with younger kids, which is who I work with now, actually, conveniently enough. So all of that teaching stuff combined with the one subject I'm good at, English. It's the one language I can speak. The one subject I can speak well enough. Suffice it to say, path 2 is be an English teacher. And that is something completely out of left field, something I never envisioned doing, because path 2 was originally going to be a journalist, but with the advent of AI and ChatGPT and all of that generative fun stuff, the need for a human behind that keyboard is vanishing.
Yes. Well, and I think print journalism and journalism in general is dying.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of becoming a teacher, because I think too often people think, teachers are, super bright. And it's like, not all of them are super bright, but I think teachers that struggled a bit make better teachers, and part of the reason is that, if you struggled, you know what it's like to struggle.
Absolutely.
And so it then becomes one of those things, if you can see the kid that's struggling and, you've got more empathy for him and you can maybe help him find the tools and stuff. So it's, so is that something you're seriously going to consider, or you're just still test driving the ground a bit?
A bit. Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously the program I run, I treat that as kind of a mentoring opportunity. I mentored someone at my old high school for a little bit. I've tutored English for a while. I did college essay editing for a long time, actually. Like, I'm still kind of doing it depending on the season. And this English tutoring thing is a more formal, like, hey, I'm putting myself out there. This is something I think I can actually do. And getting paid for it is a new thing. Okay. Before I was just like helping out friends of friends and stuff like that. Like, people were getting a hold of me through like word of mouth. Mm-hmm. But now I've also picked up I'm working on my certification for TEFL, which is teaching English as a foreign language.
Okay.
Or TESOL, depending on who you talk to, teaching English as second language, with the hopes of maybe going back to where my family's from in Japan and trying to, teach English there abroad and just soak up the culture again. I've been twice in my life, loved it to death both times, wished I never left both times, except for my friends, obviously. But yeah, to have an opportunity to go abroad and go teach somewhere else, just explore and, use the one thing the one academic subject I'm good at in a productive manner would be something really, really cool. So that's something I'm working towards right now.
Well, that's exciting. That's actually very exciting.
Yeah. Applications open in a month and a half.
Oh,
so okay. for this coming fall. And if I do get it, I'll be shipped out for 9 months, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Well, you'll have to come back and report on that. So let's wrap it up. Oh, sure. Yeah. We'll just assume that you do. We'll pretend. So let's wrap it up. So any last words you want to part with, or?
Absolutely, because there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people I would like to mention. And if I shout out every one of them, it will take an eternity. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I think the best thing I can do to represent the group that I'm from, Esports at Davis, obviously, is to say that are you familiar with Picnic Day? Because you said you're familiar with UC Davis campus. Are you familiar with one of their biggest traditions? Mm-mm. Picnic Day is like a science fair for the entire town of Davis.
Oh, wow.
It is. It's field day and science fair rolled into the same thing. You have chemistry labs rolling out equipment onto the lawn. You have entire football fields being taken up by stuff. You have vineyards being opened, tasting centers. The entire city of Davis comes alive once a year for 1 day a year. It is Picnic Day, and like it is the UC Davis thing. With that being said, Esports at Davis, not to be left out. Club Sport, all of the students there, the fine production team that we have there, we are hosting the biggest LAN event, obviously local area network. All the computers are in one place. Event in UC Davis history. It's called The Throwdown, and I have talking points about it, but I will not shill completely. Okay. I will say this: it is the main competitive project of esports at UC Davis. We had over 120 competitors last year, and we're looking at nearly 200. This year.
Goodness.
Yes,
okay.
And the finalists, the grand finalists, are going to play a best of 3 series live at California Hall, which is like 400 capacity. We're taking up one of the actual lecture halls for this one. They're setting up a whole network in there and everything. And last year, which was the inaugural tournament, basically, the inaugural event, had a $500 prize pool, which is pretty modest. If you're splitting that among 5 people, $100 a piece, kind of whatever. This year, we're up to almost $5,000.
Wow.
When
is this? So when is this happening?
This is April 12th, I believe. This is Picnic Day. I'll check that real quick to make sure I'm not misinforming anyone. But if you have the opportunity to come out to Picnic Day, yes, April 12th, 2025. Okay. This is something you will not want to miss. It was completely free to enter for all the players, and the upside of being able to maybe walk away with nearly $1,000 per. You've got to be kidding me, man. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you show your parents and you're like, video games are something I can do and something I should do.
Yeah. So we'll link that in the show notes when this comes out in a few weeks.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. I'm so psyched about it. I get to be there. They're bringing me back on, I always joke about it when I go back. They're bringing me back on Good Behavior because I will be casting there live on location. It'll be really, really exciting. I cannot wait. And some of my best friends are playing in it.
Okay.
So how often do you have the opportunity to cast professionally for your friends?
Yeah.
Never, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we will wrap it up. I want to thank you for coming on by.
Absolutely.
And,
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah. And this will be up in a few weeks, probably about 3 weeks. This will be up on the web, and I'll ping you when this is available. You can tell all your friends about it. So, all right.
Sounds good.
Great.
I was going to say, should I tell people where they can find me?
Yes.
For all those companies and stuff?
Yes.
Everywhere on earth you can find me. And this is going to sound really self-aggrandizing. I am wearing my own jersey, which is really bad. You can find me absolutely everywhere as TK Starstorm, sometimes with an underscore, but on all social media without. My name is Takeshi Kawata, and I'm so thankful to have been here. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association, celebrating 75 years of DVC's incredible impact on education, careers, and community. We hope today's episode gave you valuable insights into the journeys of our alumni and the powerful resources available at DVC. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday for inspiring alumni stories, and on Resource Thursdays, where we spotlight DVC's departments and services, showing you how they're shaping student success. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and exploring the connections that make DVC's legacy so special. And remember, DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next.